because the Reuters Foundation just published a study about journalism in Canada. And of course, they are obsessed with Rebel News. So this is their country study on Canada. Let me read it to you. They say, U.S. commentators dominate the Canadian lists alongside a small number of homegrown personalities, such as Jordan Peterson, mostly from the political right. The top 15 list is made up exclusively of men. So they're ranking how important different journalists are. Let me stop for a second, though. This is completely based on who Canadians choose to watch. I don't agree with their methodology, but this wasn't some top-down list here. No one hired this list or curated this list. It's literally asking Canadians, who do you like, who do you follow, who are you interested in, and just listening to what people say. So men and women answered. Reuters doesn't like the fact that men and women in Canada have named men as the people they listen to. Could have been women, could have been men. Reuters is mad about that. It's a weird comment, especially since Reuters is owned by a man. Reuters was founded by a man. If you're into politics, the Liberal and NDP leaders in Canada are men also. It's just a weird passive-aggressive gripe, but it shows you how they put DEI, diversity, into everything, don't they? All right, back to their story. They say, quote, the main networks used for accessing creators are similar to the United States, namely YouTube and X. Facebook and Instagram, owned by Meta, have restricted access to news content on their platforms in response to the Online News Act, and this is likely to have affected the popularity of some creator content on these networks in addition to news brands. That's true, isn't it? Trudeau and now Carney effectively banned Canadians from reading about our own country's news on Facebook and Instagram, which are huge. And we've just all accepted this as normal. Who does that other than China and North Korea and Iran? I'll read some more. The most mentioned Canadian online personality in our data is psychologist and author Jordan Peterson. Originally a University of Toronto professor, Peterson rose to international prominence through viral lectures and his book 12 Rules for Life. He is known for his critiques of political correctness and for providing a conservative intellectual perspective on social and cultural debates. With around 9 million followers on YouTube and 6 million on X, Peterson's influence is also felt across multiple countries, with a number of mentions in Australia, the UK, South Africa, and Norway. All right, that's fair enough to me. It's sort of balanced. Now, I do note that Dr. Peterson has moved to the United States. I think he did that for freedom of speech reasons, actually, and maybe for business reasons. I don't think this is a particularly meticulous report, as I'll show you in a minute. Sure, he's a Canadian. I think he's still a Canadian citizen, but he is an American in terms of his residence. But let me keep reading some more. News anchors from the main networks CBC, CTV, Global News, and Radio-Canada are widely cited in our survey along with the branded accounts for these networks. Rebel News, a network that has been associated with the alt-right. Says who? Says who? Also gains significant attention in social media, 1.1 million followers on YouTube, as does one of its co-founders, Brian Lilley, who now works for the Toronto Sun. Two things there. 1.1 million subscribers on YouTube. We crossed the million subscribers line way back, in 2017 or something. And despite being throttled by YouTube, we're now at just under 2 million. Now, I don't really care, and I really don't care that Reuters, the fact checkers, don't know that. I'm not that vain about it. I'm just pointing out that the expert fact checkers haven't even bothered to look at our YouTube page in more than half a decade when they're talking about it. And these are the experts telling you about Canadian preferences. Never trust these so-called experts. But look at this. This is true Reuters, run by a Pfizer executive, showing through. This is what they say. Ready? Rebel News was accused of spreading misinformation around the COVID-19 pandemic, among other issues. Yeah, accused by you. No one cares, mate. You lost that debate. Unfortunately, you've done eternal damage to people's trust in public health and even in their own doctors. I know a lot of people, and I'm one of them, who are much more skeptical of their own doctors because of all the lies during COVID. And the whole lockdowns will be remembered a long time. And I don't think we'll even know the full damage that Pfizer and the government lockdowns did, not just in terms of physical health, but mental health and suicide and the social effects of kicking kids out of school for 2 years and drug use and loneliness. but also any trust in any institution. Shame on Reuters and Pfizer and the rest of them. But let me show you one last thing. And again, as you can see, I don't really respect Reuters, and I don't respect the methodology of this report, which doesn't even make sense and is based on factual errors, as I've shown you. But look at this. Look at this chart. This is what Reuters says. They say that the biggest news brands are, well, in first place, the CBC. Well, now you'd hope so, given the $1.5 billion a year they get. But look at who's in second, CNN. That's a huge black eye for the Globe and Mail, the Toronto Star, CTV. Imagine being beaten by a foreign network that very rarely even mentions Canada. Next is CTV. I'm surprised they're that high, frankly. And then another foreign brand, the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation. Again, I don't actually believe that. The methodology just really checks name recognition. Have you heard of the BBC? Well, I'm sure people have heard of the BBC, but I don't think anyone in Canada actually watches the BBC. I'm sorry, I just don't believe it. But I do believe that we came in next, as you can see, because it pained Reuters to say we did. And if they had any way, any excuse not to blow our horn, they would. But there you have it. Rebel News is the 5th most watched or most known news company in Canada. I don't know about most watched, probably are too. We're bigger than Quebec's CBC, called Radio Canada. We're bigger than Quebec's private broadcaster, TVA. And most deliciously, we are way ahead of Global News. Global News is owned by a company called Chorus. They also own some radio stations. Have you ever heard of them, Chorus? I checked the stock market. They're trading at about a penny a share. They're a penny stock. The total market capitalization of Chorus is less than $8 million. I joked on Twitter last night, should Rebel News buy some shares? Should we try and raise some money to buy a majority of the stock? Wouldn't that be something? I asked people, I asked Twitter, would that be a terrible idea given that Global News loses so much money? Or is it a great idea? Sort of like a work of performance art. Especially if, say, my good friend David Menzies, the Menzoid, were installed as the next CEO. I wonder what Reuters would have to say about that.